Hello pod people, Duck Hunt, and welcome to another edition of the IGN UK Podcast. My name is Chris Tilley, I will be your host, and this week I'm joined by my sons Luke and Rory.
Duck
How are you
Hunt.
doing, boys?
Good.
Very good. Which one of us is the older sibling?
Luke.
Obviously.
What? Why?
Obviously.
Because I am actually older.
Yeah, but...
Yeah. And he's wiser.
Oh.
Welcome back from Germany.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you.
good. Did you miss us?
I did.
Yeah?
Not that much, though. It's much nicer being here without you.
It's more productive.
But it's nice to have someone to talk to. We're going to talk about Gamescom a little bit later on in the podcast, though.
We are.
We're going to kick off by talking about something that you came up with, Luke. What has happened?
I did. So, Bungie have announced that they are getting rid of Peter Dinklage's voiceover in Destiny. So, if you didn't know, he did the voice of Ghost, which is your AI companion who follows you around. And when it was first announced, he came under kind of a lot of flack for how kind of disinterested he sounds.
It's very monotonous and kind of...
And there's one famous line, which is, "That wizard came from the moon." And it's just, we've got it on site. It's just completely, you have to commit to this dialogue to make it work. And
But equally, I mean, we had a story about this recently from what David Cross said.
Yeah.
That David Cross and Brian Posehn were brought in to write funny lines for their character.
For Ghost, yeah.
To give it a bit more personality, and then they chose not to use anything that they wrote. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe he thought he was going to do something funny when he signed up.
It could have just been him. But interestingly, what they've done is, so they've argued anyway that because they are now releasing an expansion, The Taken King, in September, they decided, because Dinklage is too busy, allegedly, now would be a good time to replace him. So all of his old dialogue has been scrapped, all of it, and they've actually got Nolan North, who does so many video game voices.
Sure.
You know, he's
Every video game voice ever,
he's
yeah.
Nathan Drake, I think is he's best known for. But he's now re-recording all of the original dialogue, and then he'll do the new dialogue. And their excuse being, oh no, it's nothing to do with Dinklage's performance. It's literally just, we need someone who's more available, who can come in at the drop of a hat and do stuff.
They also said that Ghost, the robot, was going to have more of a role in the new version. But then the only description they gave is like, oh, he's going to be more involved. When you scan items on the map, it's going to give you narrative.
Which was already in the game.
Pretty much exactly what it did the last time.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like as we said, if David Cross was kind of brought on to write these jokes and they deliberately didn't include them, then maybe this monotonous kind of boring Ghost was a deliberate
was the angle
deliberate idea,
they
that they were going for.
But it sounds like they're listening to the fans a little bit on this one then.
Yeah, so I think it sounds like a good shout. But basically, building on that, we then thought recasting. What have been the highs and the lows throughout history?
The history of film and TV.
Yeah.
So let's start off by suggesting some recasting that we've actually liked. Do you want to do the first one, Rory?
I would love to do the first one.
Yeah.
So my first one is Back to the Future.
The one I was going to do because
Exactly.
everyone knows it's my favourite film.
Well, it's also one of my favorite films.
Okay.
So
I'm sure you know the story behind this much better than I do. So let's go.
Yeah, feel free to chip in.
Shots fired.
If you want to do it, just so you make sure that
crank it up.
No. So originally they casted Eric Stoltz to play Marty McFly, and they actually filmed, I believe it was 5 weeks of footage with him into the movie before they realized it wasn't really a good fit.
How would people know who Eric Stoltz is?
Eric Stoltz is an actor.
Yeah. Do you know any of his roles?
I don't know.
He was in a film called Mask, actually, based on a true story about a kid who was very badly deformed. He wore a prosthetic. Cher was his mum.
Did he get an Oscar for that, or Oscar nominated?
She did.
Oh, okay.
Or she certainly got nominated. He might got nominated.
Yeah.
It's a really good film, actually.
I kind of know that through pop culture references on like Family Guy and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is not great.
He's also in Pulp Fiction, actually, as well.
Who is he playing in
know
Pulp Fiction?
He's kind of like a drug dealer. I think it's the scene where the woman where Uma Thurman has to have the...
I think I know who you're talking about.
Like adrenaline shot, yeah.
Okay, carry on.
Well, originally they had wanted Michael J. Fox, but because of scheduling issues, they had to go with Eric.
What were the scheduling issues on?
The scheduling issues were on another film that he was working on.
The TV show Family Ties.
Yes, that was it. I did read that, and I did not make a note of it. I'm doing punchy. I'm doing like bullet points, keeping it fresh.
Sorry, I'm slowing this down.
But you can actually see some of the original footage that was shot with him, and it definitely was a direction in the right place. The humor is not really there. Michael J. Fox has such a great face for expressions. You know, when he goes back and he's so lost in this time, he's so great. The eyes and the way he just interacts with the environment.
The eyes, he has them.
He does. He has two of them, actually, specifically.
Yeah.
I didn't write that down either, but just in case Chris wanted to chip in with that as well. But I think that was one of my favorite, because as we said, one of our favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
And I can't really imagine anyone but Michael J. Fox in the role.
Yeah, it's funny, like this was, you know, I was around when the film came out, and you kind of heard tell of this in magazines, but there was no internet back then, obviously, and it was just something that over the years bits and pieces have come out. Like initially it was just a photograph. I remember in a book I got in about 1990 they had a photograph of Eric Stoltz in the role. It was like wow, how different would that have been? And then you know, with the internet, footage started coming out, and now they even talk about it. I haven't heard Stoltz go on record much, but certainly Zemeckis, Spielberg, Tom Wilson, who plays Biff, has talked about it, and he wasn't nailing the humour, as you said. And I think it was Spielberg was looking at the rushes as producer and wasn't impressed, and Zemeckis knew there was something up, and also there was a problem on set. Like I've heard them talking about the fact that he insisted on being called Marty off camera.
That's a bit weird.
And he took it all very, very seriously. I mean, that's his process, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not that kind of film.
But
right?
and Tom Wilson, who plays Biff, said there's a scene where they have a little scuffle, and Eric Stoltz was really pushing him like really hard, and he asked him to stop, and he wouldn't. And so it was just like, it wasn't a happy set, I don't think. And so everything changed. As you're right, that film would not have been the film it is, I think, if it had been him in the role.
But I mean, it was
because he's never done comedy since, really. You've never seen him in humorous roles.
Well, he does have quite even from the kind of rushes that I saw, very serious acting on quite a humorous premise. But I mean, it seemed like a really difficult decision. Apparently, it cost the studio about $3 million to go back and reshoot. And you know, to already have, you know, you start your film, all the cast are on set, to then restart that process.
And to make them redo it.
That's got to be really difficult. But as I said, overall, definitely.
And they shot the whole film after that at night then, because J. Fox was doing Family Ties in the day.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
He was getting like 1-2 hours sleep per night when he did that.
Poor guy.
He pulled it off though.
Yeah.
Love J. Fox.
Luke, what have you got?
So mine's a bit of a kind of a different one. Mine's a kind of inter-film changing. So Rachel Dawes in the Dark Knight saga. So obviously they started off in the first one with Katie Holmes, and then it's Maggie Gyllenhaal for the second one. So I just kind of was thinking about, you know, I mean, I don't know the reasoning behind it. Do you know why that was done? But I think that was, for example, do you know why that was done?
I thought you were going to come in and tell us this.
Well, no, because I'm
that
taking
was the premise.
I'm
Luke,
taking it
you
in a
tell us,
different.
I forget. I know that people didn't seem to like her performance.
Yeah.
I don't know, was she pregnant? I can't even remember now. I always thought that people were quite high. I didn't think she was that bad.
I think that a lot of people were critical of her, but I think that was around the time of the whole Tom Cruise marriage stuff, and everyone was really fixating on that.
The worst press conference I ever went to was for that movie.
Really?
And they said no personal questions at the start of the press conference, and you had Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Christian Bale, Chris Nolan on stage. Every question was directed to her and was about Tom Cruise. It was to the point they had to stop the press conference. It was embarrassing.
Wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because it's interesting because her version of Rachel Dawes was a lot more kind of cutesy and, you know, kind of girl next door, a lot more innocent.
Yeah.
And then when you get to Maggie Gyllenhaal, she's a lot more kind of tough, rough and ready, you know, and just obviously the scene where it all kind of goes wrong for her. You know, when she dies in the second one, I think that's a lot more kind of. Part of me wonders if it had still been Katie Holmes and she had been a lot more innocent, you know, if that would have been more kind of traumatic or what have you. But similarly, there's so much that goes on through the film with, you know, her pushing, with Maggie Gyllenhaal pushing Christian Bale, like, you know, and the kind of fight between them that I don't think Katie Holmes could have pulled off. So you just wondered how different a films they would have been.
Yeah, well, it's also just one of those things. One of the problems that you have when recasting actors is, you know, if something's going to happen that's significant to that character, and they've just been recast, then will the audience have that emotional connection? If it's a new actor, an unfamiliar face playing a similar character, which could happen with Spider-Man. You know, if there's going to be a pivotal point in Civil War movies. and something happens with Tom Holland, and no one really has a connection aside from the Spider-Man outfit. It's just one of the challenges they're probably going to face.
The one about this, because there's so many, but the one about this that really drew me, and I think this is a good one because I think it worked for the stories and the tones of the films that were being given. But they didn't just change the actresses; they changed the characters as well. You weren't asking Maggie Gyllenhaal to play Katie Holmes' version of Rachel Dawes. She was playing her own, and but I think that then worked for the second film.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just an interesting one because in a lot of these scenarios, these people kind of slot in, like Coronation Street or what have you. They slot in, and it's just like stand in the back, don't say anything, and pretend you're the same for the first 6 months. So it's just. I just thought it was quite an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, I've got a superhero one as well. It's kind of like iterations, though. This one is. It's the Hulk. So we've had, the Hulk on TV in the 80s was great. Bill Bixby really captured the pathos of that character, and the TV show wasn't brilliant, but his performance was really, really strong. And the movies just weren't quite able to capture it. So you had Eric Bana in the first movie.
Yeah.
And then Edward Norton in the second movie. Now, they're both really good, Oscar-nominated, critically acclaimed actors. But for whatever reason, it didn't quite click with audiences. I mean, I think Banner, he had the right name.
Yeah.
But he was a little bit dull.
Yeah.
I thought his Hulk was.
I quite liked Edward Norton's.
His was better, I think.
I prefer Norton.
And the film was more successful. And yet, for whatever reason, I mean, there's you hear rumours about Norton causing problems behind the scenes, and they didn't really want him for that ensemble.
Yeah.
And so Mark Ruffalo was brought in, and then just suddenly it all seemed to come together, though. Like, it felt like the right actor for the right role, finally. Like,
it does seem, I can't really imagine Norton in the Avengers, like on screen with the rest of them. It does seem like a bit of a clash, but because Ruffalo just fits so well. Him and Tony Stark, like the chemistry between them.
He's quite a good ensemble actor. I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I still don't know if Ruffalo's quite hit it, but I don't know who I would then put in that role.
Yeah.
But I
do you think Norton should have been in the Avengers and given that opportunity?
I completely
He's such a good
agree.
actor, though.
He is so good.
He is.
Man,
But I do agree that the kind of chemistry between Downey Jr. and the rest of the group with Ruffalo. Also, there is something quite. I mean, I suppose it's nice to think about the idea between Black Widow and between Scarlett Johansson and Ed Norton. Would that have been more believable? Would that have been more engaging to watch? I kind of think that in actual fact there's something quite endearing about Ruffalo, and especially given the event, how it all pans out then in the second Avengers.
The Hulk has got to be the Hulk has got to be a really difficult character to play because you're kind of someone who's dealing with this ability that you have, but every time you actually have it, you're not being filmed. You're not on screen. Exactly. I wonder how that kind of works. All the Avengers doing their action scenes and getting in character, and then he's probably not even on set for any of those days.
Yeah, that's why the TV show works so well, because you really got a sense of the tragedy. Like, it was like a tragedy, that show.
Yeah.
Certainly the beginning and the end of each episode, when he was just having to leave town and move on because he couldn't stay because he was putting anyone he cared about in danger. That was really interesting. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but I don't know if he will get a standalone movie, but I think they've improved along the way. Right, next one.
Next one is the Indiana Jones trilogy. And yes, I worded that very deliberately.
Yeah.
So George Lucas and Steven Spielberg actually originally cast... Do you know this? Oh, I assume you know this. Do you know this, Luke?
No, I don't know, no.
They originally cast Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones.
Oh,
I know. I've written a feature about it, so I do.
I wish that had happened. That would have been amazing.
The mustache and everything. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it'd be amazing. And he actually got the part. But at the same time, he was also auditioning for Magnum P.I.
Yeah.
And I think it was due to kind of deals with the television company that was producing Magnum P.I.
Yes,
he had to go with that and had to turn down Indiana Jones. And 3 weeks before they actually started filming the movies, they brought in Harrison Ford. And thank goodness that they did. I mean, I never actually saw any footage of
There is footage of him online, actually. There's footage of him screen testing with Sean Young as Marion, who didn't go on to play Marion. It became kind of a punchline, because I feel like Tom Selleck became like a punchline. And I actually think he's a really good actor. And I think he would have been a good Indiana Jones. I don't think he would have been any better. than Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford was perfect, but like it became kind of a running joke that, oh man, can you imagine if Magnum had played him, because he's got that moustache.
Yeah,
that's the moustache.
You know what? He's got charisma. He's very manly. He's funny. He can do action. Like, I don't think it would have been a terrible.
He was still quite sexy though, wasn't he, back then?
Really sexy.
I mean,
I think
that was the look.
I think he still is.
Yeah, well,
Those
in
shorts?
Friends, he's still got a little thing about him.
But yeah, these things happen for a reason. Funnily enough, that a very similar thing happened later that decade for James Bond. The Bond producers wanted Pierce Brosnan to play James Bond, and he was on a TV show called Remington Steele, playing quite a similar character actually. And the TV guys wouldn't let him out of their contract, and so his moment passed, and they gave it to Timothy Dalton, but it didn't work out with Timothy Dalton, so he got a second bite of the cherry. But Pierce Brosnan nearly played Bond when he was much younger.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting if the Indiana Jones franchise had kind of followed along the lines of the Bond franchise. Could you imagine if, they do maybe 3 films and they'd have a new Indiana Jones?
Well, that's what the talk is now, that how they do this, and they're going to do another Indiana Jones movie. There's no doubt, and it's whether they recast the role. I mean, the idea with Shia LaBeouf coming on board was that he would take over.
Yeah.
But that obviously didn't work out.
Not at all.
And so it's whether if, say, Chris Pratt does get the part, whether he will play Indiana Jones or whether he'll play. I think they probably will I think they will do it like Bond. I think it will become
I'm up for that. I don't want to see Chris Pratt. I think I'm getting a little bit Jennifer Lawrence with Chris Pratt.
That's my worry, is that he
There's a lot of him
saturated.
Yeah, and especially what happens is they film all these things, and then they all come out in like such a short space of time because of the release windows, and you're just like, oh, is it another Chris Pratt film?
But it's the problem that he's been in so many other things, because I think he would make a fantastic Indiana Jones. Like, but just the look and that kind of like.
I'd like to see Jennifer Lawrence.
You'd like to see Jennifer. You know what? I think it's her time. She's looking for something after Mystique.
That would be very impressive.
Right, Luke. So, actually, this one, I saw it and I was like, that can't be true. And I had to go back and look at it, and I was like, right, okay, this has to be included. So, in Arrested Development, everyone knows they recast Marta, Job's girlfriend at one stage.
Yes.
But they recast Anne Veal, which I didn't realise.
But that's part of the hilariousness
This is the
of
thing.
it. So no one realizes.
I didn't realise they recast her. So the original plan was apparently, she was made to be forgettable and noticeable, bland, and Annabelle, because her body's kind of shaped like a bell. Basically, then she was designed to be really forgettable and unnoticeable. So the plan apparently originally was they're going to have a different actress who looks quite similar each episode, so each time she appears to see if anyone knows.
Yeah.
So the first one who did it was Alessandra Torresani, and so she did the first appearance of Anne, and then after that it was Mae Whitman. And after Mae Whitman did it, they were like, this girl's good, this girl is perfect, you know what, screw it, let's just keep her, because she is like the embodiment of Anne, which I guess is a compliment. But
Bland personified.
And so Alessandra Torresani, proving herself to be the real Anne, has pretty much been forgotten.
Wow.
But I had to
I didn't know that.
This is the thing, I had to look back at the first appearance of Anne, and I'm like, that is definitely not Mae Whitman. Like, that is someone else.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? That is the best recasting that worked. Like, they got rid of the original Anne.
That's quite a funny idea as well.
One I didn't know about when I was doing my research. The original Emperor in Star Wars was a woman.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was the wife of the effects, because under loads of prosthetics.
Did you see the eyes? She had these huge bulbous eyes.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything. And then what was he called? Ian McDermott.
Yeah, Ian McDermott.
Got the role for Empire, but that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop was originally a Mickey Rourke film. But then he pulled out because they couldn't pull the deal together again in time. Stallone. It was a Stallone movie for quite a long time. I remember that's when I first heard about it. Stallone was going to be in this new cop movie, and it was going to be an action film, not a comedy.
Yeah.
Because Stallone is not good at comedy. And he got involved with it, and it was going to be he wasn't going to be Axel Foley. He was going to be Axel Cabretti. Driving around in a Lamborghini, having a sexy girl that he has a love interest, and it was just a totally different film. And then because the action was getting bigger and bigger, 2 weeks before the film was due to start, he dropped out. They didn't want to fund what he wanted, and so they got Eddie Murphy on board, rewrote it, and like the rest is history. It became, the most successful comedy of the 80s, pretty much.
Yeah, that's huge. It changed the whole tone of the film.
Well, it seems like so many of these, like, with Back to the Future as well, and even Indiana. Can you imagine how different, like, popular culture would be and stuff with
A lot more mustaches.
Yeah, a
Tom
lot more
Selleck was
mustache, yeah.
Indiana Jones.
Fashion
We
would
all
be
have
different.
mustaches
Yeah.
right now, yeah.
You never
And
know.
whips.
and whips.
Right, those were good ones. Those are ones we liked. Let's go negative. Let's go into the negative
Yeah.
zone.
So I really, really, really struggled to find any negative recastings because most of the time,
Because you Googled them and all this were of good ones that you were
much,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
It's hard to find a negative one.
Classic.
So my one is a little. It's very Rory. I'll say it like that. Okay. So don't feel too bad if you can't release. Ash Ketchum, Pokemon. Yeah. So obviously it's a Japanese show.
Yes.
So it needs to be, when it's brought over, completely redubbed in English. The first Ash was a voice actress called Veronica Taylor, and she voiced it for 8 seasons.
Yep.
And as soon as it came over, Pokemon exploded and it was huge and all the kids were watching it. Everyone loved it. And when you're a kid, you don't really have a lot to latch onto in cartoons. So the voice is a big part of the character. And it was originally done by a company called 4Kids Entertainment. But after the 8 seasons, they lost the license, which meant that they changed the studios who were producing it. And they changed essentially every voice actor on the cast. So everyone. And Ash was changed to KZ Rogers. Now, if you've seen the show before, Ash is kind of like young. He's got like a raspy voice and things like that. KZ went a little bit deeper with it and a little raspier with it. Kind of like a chain-smoking 11-year-old or 10-year-old, out on adventures. And I remember watching this as a kid. And it's one of those things that you're like, oh, a new Pokemon comes out. And it was really jarring, really jarring. It's like a different show. And it's not just her, it's like the whole cast was changed. And you're seeing these familiar faces, but you're like, that's not the person like I know that I grew up with. It was very, very weird as a kid to have that. But so that was one of my bad ones.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Thank you.
Good bad one.
Good bad one.
Good bad one.
Luke, what's your bad one?
So-
Luke, you've got proper notes. I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
I know. Well, I thought
I just wrote down BHC for Beverly Hills Cop.
Well, I thought I'd better go.
I've written all caps, Tom Selleck.
See, I thought I'd better do this one. So, my one is Game of Thrones does a lot of recasting.
Yes.
So
The Mountain, 3 times. now.
I know, and some of it's good. Like I think the final Mountain we get is good. They've recast Tommen again, good. Marcella, don't really see the point, but hey, something to do. There have been a couple of occasions though when I've been like, right, this really. It hasn't worked, but it's been for similar reasons, like clashes with scheduling. And the one that I really don't like is Dario Naharis, who becomes one of Daenerys's, starts off as kind of a bodyguard and a mercenary, and then basically becomes her lover as things go on. So he was originally played by Ed Skrein, and then for season 3, and then for
Ed
season
Skrein, who I think we might have come in the office very soon.
Oh well, so he had to leave because he got a lead role in the next Transporter film.
Yes.
Apparently. So where he plays a younger version of Jason Statham's character.
Indeed.
So he was replaced by Mikhail Huisman, apparently, he's now done it for season 4 and season 5 and for season 6. And just for me personally, the character, it's another one of these situations, these Rachel Dawes situations, but this one didn't work for me because whereas it was the character that changed as well, but the character before was one that I actually thought was better. Certainly from reading the book, I thought he was a rough and rugged mercenary, and he's a bit too much of a pretty boy kind of now in the more recent ones, which doesn't sit with me. And he's openly said he completely changed it. So he spoke to the Daily Beast and he said, they allowed me to reinvent it, told me to keep in mind what the character had gone through in the backstory, but then take from there and give my own interpretation, which is great because it would have been hard to replicate what someone else had done. They were hoping that although we'd ever already seen him a couple of times, the audience would forgive the change and accept me as Daria from now on. And it's fine. It's just for me, from the look, he was a kind of slightly grizzled, kind of like chiseled mercenary.
Yeah.
Now he is very kind of pretty, long flowing locks, bronze skin, very Brad Pitt in
But now
Troy.
it's pretty like romantic as well, and that's kind of like.
And it's not
It's not helping the.
It's not really who he was, and also especially from as someone who's read the books and stuff, it's not the character that I envisioned, which is actually quite unusual because I do think in a lot of instances in Game of Thrones they've been quite good at getting it spot on from how I saw the characters.
Yeah.
So and I think I wouldn't have minded so much if it was introduced that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you've changed the character, but because they nailed it originally for me and then they changed it, I'm like, that didn't quite.
You'll have to tell Ed if he comes into the office.
I'll be like, yeah, no, he was my Dario.
He's doing all right though. He's after the transporter refueled. He's in Deadpool as well.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
very good. So is that presumably what we'd be getting him in for?
Transporter.
Okay.
They should have a
Sick.
character in Game of Thrones, a Lannister called Lady Anne, and they'll change her every season. See if anyone notices.
See what we did there.
I think that'd be quite funny.
My one that I don't like. It's probably a bit unfair because it's not recasting as such. It's just they remade the movie or readapted the book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just grew up with Gene Wilder's performance so ingrained in my brain, and it freaked me out so much that I can't imagine. I don't imagine any other Willy Wonka. You know, the book was Gene Wilder for me, and so to see Johnny Depp just trying so hard in the Tim Burton movie, and it was, I mean, it made $800 million or something crazy, so people obviously liked it, but for me it just, I don't know, I didn't like that.
I was the
piece of
same as
cast.
you, because I went in not really knowing a lot about what the performance was going to be like,
Yeah.
and having, as you said, the original so defined in my
Yeah.
mind that when I saw this one, it just, the magic wasn't there. It was just something completely different. It wasn't Willy Wonka to me. It was
No, and he said he kind of based him on Walt Disney and Michael Jackson or something like that. It was just, I'm not a huge Johnny Depp fan anyway when
Yeah.
he's doing that kind of acting, which is all he seems to do these days.
I mean, I kind of was the same. I grew up with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Or was it Willy and the Wonka and the
Yeah,
Chocolate
yeah,
Factory, and then
Willy Wonka.
renamed it,
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
and then they renamed it Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I remember when it was Willy Wonka.
why would they rename it?
Alliteration, I don't know, shigs, something to do. But I really preferred like Gene Wilder's version, and I didn't actually see the Johnny Depp one in the cinema, and then when it was on Sky Movies one day, like out of a morbid curiosity.
When I got older though, and then saw him in Blazing Saddles, that blew my mind. I was like, Willy Wonka, what are you doing?
Yeah. Willy?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the weirder moments of my childhood. Yeah.
Have you seen his comedies with Richard Pryor?
Oh my lord!
I don't think so.
Silver Streak and Stir Crazy are the two ones to watch.
I've seen Silver Streak.
Yeah,
I haven't
it's
seen
funny.
Stir Crazy. Oh wait, no, maybe I have seen Stir Crazy.
It's when they go to prison.
Oh, maybe I haven't. No,
It's very funny. But
It'll be on the list.
kind of the reason I brought that up though is there was just a bit of news this week that I quite liked that I could
Yeah.
segue
Ooh,
into.
that's good.
Spielberg is making a movie of the book Ready Player One, which
Yes.
if you haven't read, you need to read. If you ever spend any time on IGN, you need to read this book because it's written for people like us.
Yeah.
And there is a Willy Wonka-like character in it. He's kind of like a cross between, say, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Willy Wonka. Really old, who passes away at the start of the book. And apparently, there's rumours that Spielberg might be trying to get Gene Wilder to come out of retirement to play the role, which would just be amazing.
that would be
That would be
incredible.
phenomenal.
How old is he now?
He's really old.
Okay.
He's really. I don't know if he could even do it, and he retired a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think he said he would come out of retirement for Mel Brooks, because of
course.
But
It's not that, because it might not be that big a role though. It could be something that he could provisionally.
But anyway, I thought that was really
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
we
also-
could
that would
be
be really
getting
cool.
a kind of new iteration of his Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, let's talk about this week's Cup of Joe.
And that's thanks to Kyle Chester Marsden, who he provided this week's good and bad.
This is my favorite.
And yeah,
I think so
Cup
far.
of Joe, and we'll get on to what the negative one is later.
I like Cup of Joe.
Although that's coffee, and I don't like coffee, so this is a problem for me.
Right, well, that's
Do you have any caffeine, like at all, in your diet?
Just cocaine.
tea.
The odd cup of tea.
Okay.
Is there caffeine in cocaine?
Let's move on. Let's stop talking about cocaine.
Sorry.
Luke.
Okay, so my bit of news that I was very excited about was Warcraft 4 may happen, and this is because so Warcraft started life as a real-time strategy series like Command & Conquer, and then it had 3 incredibly successful iterations, and then World of Warcraft kind of took over the story, and for years the developers have basically said, look, World of Warcraft is Warcraft 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, this is the future of the franchise. Don't really expect us to revisit it. And now StarCraft is the one that kind of holds the RTS flag for Blizzard. But during Gamescom, I got to talk to the lead producer of StarCraft 2.
Ooh.
And he basically said, right, well, now we've finished StarCraft, we're coming up to releasing the final chapter of StarCraft 2. And you know what? We will definitely consider a Warcraft RTS because people have thought about it, been asking for it. He didn't say they'd do it, but he said we'll consider it.
Yeah.
We'll consider another StarCraft or a new kind of intellectual property. But what's really interesting is, for years they've been so adamant. Nope. It's Warcraft is the way. World of Warcraft is the way. This is quite an interesting thing, and it's just interesting for the genre because real-time strategy games have kind of died a death because Warcraft 3 birthed the whole MOBA thing, which is Dota 2, League of Legends, all of those games that Rory loves. So Warcraft 3 birthed that, a mod of Warcraft 3 did that. So it would be really, really interesting now to see if they actually made a sequel to the game that started it all.
Yeah.
And because also something else that I spoke to the Heroes of the Storm, which is Blizzard's MOBA. I spoke to those guys during Gamescom, and they did say they might be looking at a Warcraft 3-esque mode, like almost kind of reverse engineering it to put into the game. So it's good to know that Blizzard is still thinking about it. But yeah, for me, I was just kind of like, this is awesome. And my personal theory is because everyone's like, how could it coexist with World of Warcraft? And
Luke, how?
Well, I'll tell you, young Rory. Basically, they have created an alternative timeline in the most recent Warcraft expansion, which not a lot of people have liked. But at the end of the expansion, it very much seemed they were then sealing that off, and they're like, right, okay, that was an experiment. So we could very easily jump into this alternative timeline in the RTSs, go along in them for a bit, and then once some characters in that saga are established, bring them back over into Warcraft expansions, because it's quite difficult to establish characters in an MMO as opposed to a game where you have direct control.
Yeah, I mean, and Blizzard are so good at their characterization and cross-platforming. This is a little bit more relevant to me more recently because I started playing Hearthstone, which is the first Blizzard game I've ever played. I never played Warcraft, never played Heroes of the Storm, anything like that.
I've been bullying you to play it for months, and you've finally done it.
It's just Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, and
it's Magic the Gathering on your phone, pretty much.
And it's ruining your life.
But for some reason, it's a lot less nerdy.
Yeah, it's really...
I don't know why, that like, if you're with your friends at a table with like physical cards, summoning your wizards, tapping your mana, that's somehow less nerdy than an app on your phone.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right, guys.
I don't think that's true either. Okay, moving on. Who's watched Wet Hot American Summer?
Yes.
First day at camp.
Yeah, so it was the day before Gamescom, and the evening of, and I texted Rory at like 11, and our flight was at 7, and I was like, have you started packing yet? And he was like, no. I was like, well, pack, I've just finished watching Wet Hot American Summer. It's really funny. And then he started watching it, and you didn't like it at first, did you?
It was really weird. So when I first started watching it, it had the same kind of effect that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt had on me, which was the jokes weren't quite landing, and I wasn't really sure what I was watching. But where it differed was with Kimmy Schmidt, I had no desire to continue watching it. I was kind of forcing it. For some reason, Wet Hot American Summer, I was like, there's something here, and I'm not quite getting it, but I really want to watch the next episode. So about 3 episodes in or so, I actually went back and watched the original film, and then after that, everything made so much more sense. And I went back to it, I started getting a lot more of the jokes, and I can see why the original film was a cult hit. There's something about it that after I watched with it, it's just stuck in my head.
Well,
and I was like,
that's weird that you've watched the TV show without watching the film.
Yeah.
Well, so I did my research beforehand, because I think you pointed the trailer out to me on site, and I was like, oh, this looks great. It's got an all-star cast, amazing. And so then when I did the research, and I was like, oh, it's the same cast of the movie, largely. And then I kind of started looking at reviews of the movie, and I was like, yeah. I was like, you know what? Maybe it'll be better if I come to this with fresh eyes. So I did, which was a bold move. But it landed on me, like kind of off the wall, just insane humour with no kind of grounding. Yeah, but it works for me.
It'd be interesting what you think of the film now, having watched the show.
You should watch
it that way around. And actually, that's chronologically, that's how it should work.
Yeah.
Because it should pay off a lot of the things that are set up in the show. But you pretend to be American, and this film was not a hit in the UK. I don't even know if it got theatrical release. I'm surprised that it's not something you've grown up with in the way that I grew up with Caddyshack, which I think it's in the same ballpark.
I find it really strange that I had never even heard of the film before. I guess because I grew up largely in the UK, so maybe if it wasn't a big hit over here, it wasn't. But I feel like that my dad at least would have like watched it. And I have a big summer camp history. I went to summer camps when I was a kid. I counseled as a summer camp. Was nothing like this summer camp.
He was a camp counselor, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, when I first heard there was about counselors at summer camp, I was like, oh, I counseled at a summer camp for like 4 years. And I was like, oh, this would be cool. And I watched this and I was like, whoa, this was not my camp.
Lots of chicks.
Oh, so many chicks. It's crazy.
Yeah, it also, the film came out just after 9/11 as well, which I think affected it in the States as well, the success of it. It certainly was a flop when it came out.
Yeah.
As well as getting not brilliant reviews, and then this cult built up around it. But I just think I didn't enjoy the film, and I really enjoyed the TV show, and I can't figure out why. I think the writing's better this time around. I think it works in half-hour sort of episodes, and also I just think it's that much. It was fun. The joke was in the film that they're in their mid-20s and they're playing teenagers.
Yeah.
And now the joke is they're in their mid-40s and they're playing even younger teenagers.
Yeah.
And I think that's really funny. Like every time you've got to keep reminding yourself, that kid's 17.
It's so funny.
That 40-year-old man.
I love it. I really, really loved it. Like, and like how Michael Cera bearing his piss stain, and it's just
Piss
like
Pot, the lawyer.
Piss Pot, yeah, it's just so stupid.
But by far my favourite thing in both the film and the TV show is Bradley Cooper and Michael Ian Black's love affair. I just think it's really, really funny.
I love it. I thought it was so. I mean, I love Amy Poehler as well at the best of times.
Yeah.
And just that, like, you know, the lines where she's like, you know, I'm 16, I've got my whole life ahead of me.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just like, what?
Yeah.
And also, funny you should mention Gene Wilder earlier when the acting coach comes in and tries to do the.
That's what I was. When we were talking about Willy Wonka, I burst out laughing.
Yeah, the guy from Mad Men, isn't he?
Yeah.
When he's doing mask work.
It's really this is what we call mask work. It's so good.
It's really
and I don't know, because as I say, I had no touchstone for it, and maybe that was a good thing. But I'd like to see the movie now.
This is good. So this is a definite cup of Joe from all three of us.
Yeah, which is rare.
Next up, Rory, something I know nothing about.
Really?
I know so much about this.
So we got some new details about the Power Rangers movie that's going to be released next year. Now, I have gone into detail in the past about my history with Power Rangers, the gang wars that participated in my primary school. So this is a large part of my childhood. Having the Sega name Powers, it's an obligation to be involved in the Power Rangers. So some of the information that we got this week was character descriptions, which is making me very cup of Joe.
It's making you coffee?
I have no reason so far to be worried about this reboot. So, I mean, the description is that it's gonna be a mature adaptation, but still quite playful, which is perfect for me. Obviously, we got the kind of gritty reboot that a lot of people really liked. Adi Shankar, you know, his kind of bootleg adaptation.
Yeah, he did the brief one, didn't he?
Which was really interesting, but it was very dark.
Was it almost a pitch?
Power Rangers.
I can't quite remember.
He does that. He does those. He's done it a few times now.
It was a very, very cool interpretation. But obviously, I like to see the playful side of it. The character descriptions is the original. It has all the original names and very similar descriptions to the original cast of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So we got Jason, Kimberly, Trini, Billy, and Zach all making reappearances, very similar to our original characters. I'm really excited about this. This is one of the first films that I know we're kind of going through this reboot phase of television. I'd say this is definitely one of the films that I have the most nostalgia for, and is very, very important to me. So I'm a little cautious of how they're going to interpret this film. I wonder if they're gonna try and make it so it appeals to the same audience that Power Rangers appealed to originally, or maybe they're gonna do like the Disney thing where it's like a widespread, younger audience will appreciate it, older ones will.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they do it. But so far, as I said, it's all Joe.
I'm really excited because I used to spend every Saturday morning getting up early watching it. I had fallen out with my grandpa because when he came down from England to stay, he recorded over my VHS of the episode where they got their ninja powers, and I never really forgave him.
Well, your uncle was also Rita Repulsa as well, so that didn't help.
Kind of still a bit.
What did he record?
It was like something to do with birds, like, and because he was a wildlife photographer, and it's like, well, good for you.
Sounds like a nice man.
Well, you know what? It doesn't matter because he had no respect for another man's VHSs.
My brother used to love Power Rangers so much that we would on Saturday mornings they would have a showing, so we would watch the episode and then an hour later, they would show the same episode, but on the Irish channel on television. So it would just be the same episode, but in Irish. And we would just watch the same episode that we just watched, but in Irish. So we knew what they were saying, but we just wanted to watch the same thing.
Can you just recorded it and watched it again in English?
We weren't smart enough.
This is the interesting film.
Definitely weren't smart enough.
It was one of the first films I saw, the original movie, in the Grand Pavilion in Portugal, South Wales. They put on a special screening. All the kids of the town. And I went, and my parents wished they were dead.
I think this is the first time I'm really thinking that maybe I'm too old to do this job. Because Turtles and Transformers I grew up with. But this one is definitely
there
after
must not have been that big a gap, because I watched Ninja Turtles when I was growing up.
It wasn't a huge gap, but I was definitely too old for it when it came back.
They repeated a lot of that kind of.
I was probably about 15. I was probably about 15, and
you're never too old for Power Rangers, Chris.
Yeah, but I think if you've grown up with it, maybe you're not. But because I still like Turtles, but
okay.
It's just like this seems ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think we're clearly the audience in terms of because.
What seems ridiculous about a group of teenagers with attitude harnessing the powers of ancient dinosaurs?
I'll be honest with you, though. I'm sure they've watched the success of Transformers and the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, and I think you'll find something that's tonally similar to that, because no matter what you think of Transformers or that Turtles reboot, which I only watched the other day and thought was okay, they made a fortune. So and this is in that same universe.
Well, especially with Transformers, because a large part of Power Rangers is giant robots fighting each other and destroying cities, which at the time was men in suits fighting in little miniature towns with spark shooting.
Well, it does sound like
a whole CGI. I feel very guilty saying this, but a big CGI Power Rangers battle I think would be pretty epic.
Yeah. You shut your whole mouth, because we don't want that. I want proper effects. But it does sound like they are kind of going for.
You want a middle-aged man in a dinosaur suit stomping around Little New York.
Yeah, you missed that.
but it does sound interesting. It does sound like they have
to use CGI to do this.
Oh God!
It's gonna look.
I don't want it to be too CGI. I hated Transformers. It was too CGI.
The first one I like the first one.
Okay. It has to be though.
But one of the things, when you're looking at the character descriptions, they do deal with quite a few issues that I think they mentioned in Billy's description. He's clearly on the spectrum. He's got OCD, and dealing with those kind of issues he has to cope with. Zach comes from a very poor single parent family, and it's they are kind of moving it up a little bit.
Well, that's it. They've taken these silhouettes of characters, these very basic premise one-line characters. Exactly. Yeah. So as you said, it's you got Billy, who at the time was Billy's the nerdy one, he's the smart one, but now they've given it, it's modern cinema. They're giving him more complex characteristics about his backstory, why he is the way he is, which obviously is gonna absolutely change the premise. That's why this is a brand new film adaptation, and it's not going to be a new show on Disney.
Yeah.
Can we stop talking about Power Rangers?
Fine.
We can try.
Let's move on to another one of my favourite topics.
Yeah, I see. I'm going to have to do my homework on that one. Wow.
Yeah. World of Warcraft. I'm back on the goods. It's awful, but it's after they announced the expansion last week. I was in Germany, and so I couldn't play, and I was like, oh, screw it, and I just kind of signed up anyway, and redid my subscription. And going back into it, actually, it's like getting a fix after such a long time. It's like coming home. It's like a big hug.
That's the segue. Speaking of cocaine,
I was gonna say, I really, really do enjoy that game, and I'm excited for the expansion. But I just thought, I kind of went back and was expecting to hate myself a little bit, but I don't. I really like it, and I've been playing it every evening this week. And so once again, all the games that I should be playing for my job are on the back burner.
I fancy giving it a go.
It's really good.
Is it easy to start, or is it quite hard?
They've really streamlined it. So we've got it on the PC in here. So you should definitely give it a go.
Yeah.
Because obviously with the movie coming out next year,
indeed,
it's gonna be an interesting one, I think.
I want someone to cut together a series of cinematics that will prepare me for the movie, so that I don't have to invest time. And I think I will become addicted to this.
You don't have to know the game at all to appreciate the film.
Okay.
I've spent time on set. I've spoken to them while I was at Comic-Con with them. They're making it for everyone, not for games.
As we kind of said it, so basically this is the story of the first game, pretty much, and then if they do more, they'll do more. But so World of Warcraft is kind of set far in the future, and some of those characters do appear in it, but yeah, lots has changed.
Do you think there'll be little nods in the film to remember this, or do you know this from the game?
It's been interesting. I think they might, but I don't think they'll be they won't be too big because, as you say, it's for everyone.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot there. There's going to be. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Annoyingly,
I'm excited.
It's annoying. As soon as you go on set and you sign this blooming form, you can't say anything. And
who is it? Is it Henry Cavill, who's a massive fan, or
he is? Yeah, we were trying to get him in this week, but it didn't happen. Yeah, he nearly missed. Well, he missed the phone call from Zack Snyder offering the role of Superman because he was playing it.
Are you serious?
You've no idea. I used to spend.
That's crazy.
It's thankfully it's much more casual, friendly now than it used to be. But yeah, it used to suck up a lot of time.
I'm imagining then Zach signed into World of Warcraft and send him a little message. Hey, you're Superman.
Yeah,
BTW.
Like, who is this block?
Can we go in the real world?
Okay, we must.
I did an interesting thing the other day. So there's a really cool film coming out this year called Legend.
Yes.
In which Tom Hardy plays Ronnie and Reggie Cray, who were two gangster twins who practically ran London in the 1960s. And as part of the promotion for the film, they took me on a tour. It was at East End Tour is the Twitter handle of the people. It was awesome.
Yeah.
If you like violence and murder and evil, then this is the tour for you, because you got to see the house they grew up in, the boxing club they went to, the Greasy Spoon where they ate, and then the pub where they came up with their plan, then the other pub where they shot a man to death.
Finished off with a round of bingo with Barbara Winter. Fantastic.
So yeah, just if you want to prep it all for this movie Legend, I thoroughly recommend East End Tour. And the film, I think I'm not even supposed to be talking about that yet, but Tom Hardy is phenomenal.
Yeah,
playing these two roles. Yeah.
When's it out?
September 9th.
I was going to say it's soon because there's a board that I pass outside Earl's Court.
Yeah, and how you got to imagine it is it's a British gangster film but done in the style of an American gangster film. So think of Goodfellas or Casino, but set in London.
It looks really good from what I've seen the clips so far.
And the cast is brilliant. And I took my dad, which was nice.
Yeah.
Took in there because he's got some crazy. Everyone of that age who lived in London has some kind of crazy story.
We don't really have crazy. London's not that crazy at the minute. We need to spice things up, guys.
Well, there's gangs and it's a different kind of crime now.
Yeah, organized.
Yeah,
very organized.
Out to the suburbs.
And finally, Rory, you've got something weird on here that I don't.
This is a bit of weird news. I was tempted to put this in the bad section, but overall, it's kind of funny.
I'd put it in the bad section, but that's just me.
You would put so basically, there is an attorney from Staten Island who was accused of aiding a client in fraud, and he wants to settle the case with trial by combat. So I know you're not a big Game of Thrones fan, Chris, but it's basically what it sounds like. In place of a trial, you can either fight yourself or nominate someone to fight on your behalf.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Game of Thrones came up with that concept.
It might have been around pre-Game of Thrones.
It's slightly regressive, an idea, taking us back to the medieval ages, but hey, if we built up this justice system, it's clearly not working.
Great scene in Flash Gordon with Trial by Combat.
Really?
Timothy Dalton.
Well, he claims that because no court, to his knowledge, has outlawed the practice, it's still a valid alternative to civil court.
So it's one of these archaic laws that hasn't yet been kind of
I guess
squashed.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got some of them. My dad can take his sheep over London Bridge whenever he wants, and the traffic has to stop for him.
Yeah.
And if my dad is hanged, he doesn't have to use a normal rope. He can use a silk rope.
Why?
Nice. Why your dad?
He's a freeman of the City of London.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Isn't there something you can shoot a Welshman between the hours of something and something and like something?
Yeah.
There's a lot of these.
I
was going to say.
I do want to shoot you though.
Yeah. So this just sounds like nonsense though. Is this nonsense?
It is nonsense. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's definitely not going to materialize into anything.
It's very Rory.
It's pretty fun. It made me think. If you were given the opportunity to do trial by combat, who would you choose?
My Uncle Brian.
Uncle Brian. I was thinking. I don't know.
I'd choose Dan Kilby.
I was thinking Jackie Chan. He might be a good one.
I met a guy in Texas who I would like on my side. He's an Irishman. He was the bare knuckle gypsy boxing champion.
Oh my Lord.
That's a man that you want in your corner.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Though.
I also want to see your uncle fight Jackie Chan. I think that would be.
Is that now what we're building up to?
My Uncle Brian's is more like the Irish gypsy dude.
Okay.
Anyway, probably shouldn't have used the word gypsy. Let's move on. So Cup of Joe was the positive. What's the negative this week?
The negative is yellow snow.
Yellow snow.
Which you should not eat.
Never eat yellow snow. I'm going to kick off with True Detective Season 2.
Right.
So, and I believe neither of you've watched it.
I know about
Completely useless. So, True Detective Season 1, one of the best bits of TV I've ever watched, apart from the finale, which I thought was a letdown, the final episode. It's just a brilliant piece of TV. This follow-up has been massively disappointing. There've been a minority, vocal minority on Twitter that think it's a work of genius. I just think the guy bit off more than he could chew, the writer.
Is it the story?
It had good moments. It's everything. It had good moments. Like Colin Farrell's great in it. There are some great sequences, some great twists. But overall, I couldn't understand what was going on. The plot was too complicated. There's 4 or 5 main characters, which was just too many.
Yeah.
The structure wasn't as interesting with the first season. The way they jumped around in time was really clever and smart. The direction wasn't really the original. So it was, what's he called? Nicholas Polizzo, I think is his name. The guy that has written all of it himself, which is incredible.
Yeah.
It was Cary Fukunaga directed the first season and got a lot of credit, which I don't think the other guy liked, and so he's not involved this time. It's been a different director each week, and so without that
that's a bit dangerous.
Yeah, that the vision of the first one and the tone of it and everything, it didn't feel like it had that identity
to string it together, kind of.
Yeah, the finale was a bit all over the place, and they kind of one of the most interesting characters was kind of benched, I felt. And Vince Vaughn, I was so excited to see this do for Vince Vaughn's career what
everyone was when we all heard he was casted.
Yeah, I thought that's great
insane.
casting,
yeah.
And it was just beyond him to play this kind of kingpin mobster. I don't know, I just didn't buy it. So yeah, just a bit disappointed really, and I think I'm done with it now. I mean, maybe if they do a third one.
Do we know if it's
no word yet. I mean, it's taken a bit of a mauling, so it depends whether he wants to do it, and then it's up to the network. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. I wish they'd left it at 1.
Yeah. Has it kind of sullied it?
No, not particularly, but like I had 2 months ago, I had such high expectations, and just forcing yourself to watch it each week was a bit painful.
Well, did the narratives to both seasons tie together in any sense?
No, not at all.
Well, then at least there's that they're
and it was different.
Entities.
Yeah, the first one they were kind of different in that they were both kind of noirs, TV noir, but what the first one was about a serial killer. This one was much more about a conspiracy that was a bit more akin to Chinatown, if you've ever seen Chinatown.
Yeah. Big Trouble
in Little China.
Anyway, so that's my sad.
So my thing is, I mean, it's more of a whine, really. It's not. It's kind of just being.
That's what we love here.
It's kind of just being entitled. But PlayStation Plus subscription prices are rising in the UK and parts of Europe.
It's more than Xbox now, I believe.
Yeah, so it's rising from the 1st of September, and it's not really a big deal because in fairness it's only going to affect the 1 month and the 3 month options. So if you still buy annually, you're still going to have the same price, which I think is 40 quid. They haven't announced how much they're going to up the other ones yet, but they did raise it in some other territories earlier in the year, and they did also add, as opposed to when it first launched, you only got 1 PS4 title.
Yeah.
Now you get 2, so you can see, the value has increased. So it's fine. It's just one of these things that I would have liked if they'd done it alongside us getting a AAA release for the PS4 each month, because at the moment we're still getting some indie games, and some of them are great. Like, everyone loves Rocket League. That's awesome. We're not gonna complain about that.
About Rocket League?
No, we're not talking about Rocket League. But basically, no, I'm not complaining about that. I just think it's one of these things that it would have been nice if, when they upped it, they also did that and were like, now we are going to start introducing some high quality retail games as well to the service. But it's a small gripe in what I do think is a fantastic service. But actually, there's been quite a lot of good news this week, and finding some yellow snow was difficult.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's a minor inconvenience, which means to the internet it's the end of the world.
I mean,
it's like the worst thing that's ever happened.
It's an ongoing thing. Netflix prices, Amazon, all the prices, every price goes up.
And the point a lot of people make is, why would you not be buying it yearly?
Yeah.
If you're not... I don't buy yearly. I'm on a monthly.
Oh, see,
only because I just have a PS4 in the office, so I never know when I'm like,
see, this is the
Rocket
thing.
League's gone. Let's cut it. You never know.
So I don't know. I see. I'm PS4 for the foreseeable future, so there's no reason why I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cool.
Finally, you guys haven't seen Fantastic Four, have you?
Dying to see it.
Not Potato Head Teller.
Obviously, that's been the big news for the last couple of weeks is the lack of quality therein, and then the disappointing box office. And I don't know, I could talk about it here, but we're going to do a superhero show on it that will be live after this podcast goes up. So maybe just check that out. Me and Daniel are going to go to town on it, really talk at length about what went wrong. We got a lot of feedback as well, but yeah, just I think that's a lot of listeners. Did anyone like it?
Yeah,
let us know if you liked it. You know, the first 45 minutes are okay. They're not disastrously bad.
Well, that's what I've heard. Yeah, the actual introduction, how they get their powers, and that kind of process is reasonably entertaining.
But I watched over the weekend. I watched the 2005 movie, was it? And then the one 20 years ago that Roger Corman made for $1 million that never got released. And I honestly don't know which one I like the least. They're just, all three have just got really bad moments to them, and maybe this one is the worst because it's $120 million spent on it.
Yeah, I don't know if they've ever really nailed the casting for me, because this seemed like I think the cast was good. I don't really like Miles Teller as a human being. But I like Jamie.
Keep calling him a potato.
He has a potato head. I do quite like Michael B. Jordan a lot though. Kate Mara I really only know from not Game of Thrones, House of Cards, and then Jamie Bell I quite like.
I just think it's kind of fascinating. Were
they all good?
We've had so many superhero films that have been such successes. I find it really fascinating to take this as an example and just dissect the film, like tear it apart, find out where it went wrong, why it went wrong.
I'm sure that's what you're going to do, the superhero show.
Exactly.
There's a lot going around, isn't there?
But equally, let us know if you liked it. Let us know why. IGN _ UK feedback at IGN.com.
Yeah.
Which brings us nicely on to this week's emails.
Feedback.
First one I've got is from Kyle Chester Marsden, who gave us the name for our good and bads this week.
Lovely man.
He said, a few weeks ago, Daniel mentioned how he absolutely despised the new Spectre trailer and how he also thought it was the worst trailer he'd ever seen. I was quite shocked.
I don't remember him saying it was the worst trailer. I think I was on that podcast. He talked about
that's quite full on.
He talked about how it lacked that wow moment, which I personally agreed with. That it was so. For example, it wasn't Casino Royale. It was Skyfall that had the moment of the trailer, you know, where it tears off the back of the train carriage and he kind of falls down and adjusts the cufflinks. Incredible moment. And that's just the bullet point in that trailer that really just hits it home.
The money shot.
Exactly. And this trailer it kind of fizzled out, I felt. So I was kind of agreeing with him. I wouldn't say that it's the worst trailer I've ever seen before.
So Carl wants to know, what's the best trailer of a film you've ever seen and why? Just to be clear, the movie can be absolute yellow snow, but the trailer can be Cup of Joe. One of my personal favourites was Cloverfield teaser trailer. J.J. Abrams and the disaster theme worked so well to make that trailer pretty much a short story, yet ending it with a definite I want more of this feeling. What are your thoughts? I'm in full agreement, actually. I prefer a teaser to a trailer.
Yeah.
I like it when they almost show nothing from the film. There have been some when I was a kid that they did that. They shot stuff separately. Terminator 2, Jurassic Park. Those are always my favourite. I don't need to see I don't need to see loads of footage to be interested. And J.J. Abrams has done a similar thing with trying to keep his projects quite secretive. Super 8 had a really good teaser as well.
Yeah.
One big trailer that I really liked was Prometheus. I remember thinking that was one of the best trailers I'd seen. And I like the viral stuff that's happening these days around them. The Martian, Prometheus did the same. I like that tactic rather than showing me 5 money shots that make me want to see the movie.
I quite like Chronicle. I just remember the way it kind of. I quite liked it because it was so representative of what the movie was.
It was really cool.
So much, and also especially. Even it's quite difficult, especially at the time it came out, when there was such fatigue with found footage movies and stuff. Yeah. It would have been so easy for it to kind of hide from the fact that it was a found footage movie and all that, but it didn't. And yet still within that teaser, it made me think, there's something I want to watch here. And it was just had a very nice pacing in the way it built up.
It did, didn't it? It was just there was something about watching TV and having this found footage and not really an introduction as to what you were watching. So you're like, okay, so it's some sort of documentary style. And then once you see the slow introduction of these supernatural powers, you're really drawn into it. I remember as soon as I finished watching it, I was like, what was the name of the film? Or like, have you seen the trailer of the like that?
The thing,
yeah,
the thing.
It's
with
exactly
the thing.
what a trailer is supposed to do: is get you like talking about the film, get you excited about the film, and they really nailed it with Chronicle.
Because it's one, and I don't know, maybe because it's found footage and it was just edited so well, but so often if it's too many changes and breaks, or too obvious a trailer, you look away or you do something else. It's an ad break. Who cares? But with that, it actually kind of made you be like, "Hang on,
it's all coming back to me now.
I just want to have a little look at this. What's happening?" So I really like Chronicle.
That little end where he's pulling apart the legs of the spider.
Yeah, just that bit.
Love it
because that's
It's
the
really,
still
really
that they
good.
kind of closed with, isn't it?
Yeah. Fantastic. I was kind of racking my brain because a lot of my favorite films, I don't even remember seeing the trailers originally. I just remember seeing the films. But maybe because it's so
That's not the
recently, and maybe
question,
because it's the hype, but it's Star Wars. The latest trailer for Star Wars. I've seen it so many times now, and it's just chills. It really, really is getting me hyped for the film.
multiplier.
The nostalgia, the excitement, seeing the characters, the noises, these worlds. It's awesome.
Jeez, man, no, but I've been there before. Like, it was just at the
That's my
start of the
concern.
internet was the Phantom Menace trailer, and that was the first big deal trailer. I remember when it went online and everyone was waiting for it to load up because no one had high-speed internet.
56K.
And
Then 2 days later,
to be
it loaded
fair,
in.
Phantom Menace was a terrific trailer, actually. So I'll always because of that, I'll always temper my excitement. But I agree with you. That's a really good trailer.
Well, yeah, just kind of a flip from this, because there's stuff again about the Fantastic Four, right? I hate it when there's stuff in the trailer and then it doesn't make it to the final film.
Yeah, Predators was one that was really annoying when it came to that.
Yeah.
The film was called Predators, and there's multiple Predators in the same shot in the trailer, and then there was one Predator in the film.
It's like something's happened here.
The Fantastic Four, there's a bunch of shots, and that's something we might actually look into on the show.
Cool. So from Hashim Yilmaz, he says, having just listened to podcast 292 on Gamescom,
which I didn't like because I get the piss taken out of me twice, and I'm not even there to defend myself. So
hey, listen, Rory and I were in the same room, and it
got
didn't
the
go
piss taken
particularly
out
well
of
for us. We've just learned to kind of take it, as it were. I was wondering if it is held at the Colmess. I work in the nursery industry, and there's a baby trade show. No real babies traded at the show before you ask. Every year in September at the mess. Yeah, it is hosted there. So it's
What's a baby trade show?
you don't trade babies. You look at it's like the nursery industry. So different types of cots, different toys, different stuff like that.
Clothes.
I'd be like, here's a new baby, came in this morning. He's
I'll
5-pounder.
I'll give you 2-3 months for your 6 months.
Right.
Basically, it's a pretty weird centre. It's massive, and this year I was lucky enough to be based almost solely in the business hall, which is basically 4 halls where it's just industry, and so it's air conditioned, it's lovely, you can walk from one end to the other, you just see all the people in the industry. It's very nice, it's very chilled.
What a lovely time you had. What a lovely time you must have had
Rory,
at Gamescom.
we warned Rory that the other end of the building were the public halls, and it was, as one of the only games consumer shows that there is out there, it is, and especially the only one in Europe, it is an absolute cluster. Rory didn't believe us, so we were like, oh, so you'll be very, very happy to go and do some off-screen on the public days, to which he replied, yes, I will. And how do you feel now, Rory?
Well, I've been to kind of conventions before. I've been
to MCM
the
and the
MCM,
like.
yeah, which I thought was a lot of people. Comic-Con, it's notorious for having a lot of people there. Gamescom was beyond comprehension. It was more people in one place than I've ever seen in my entire life.
Beyond
before.
comprehension's a big shout.
I could not comprehend what I was seeing.
Yeah, well, Rory couldn't comprehend what day it was earlier today, so...
That's true. I thought it was Wednesday. For a place called Cologne, the residents do not know a lot
about body odor.
about body odor. It was basically 2 days of me lugging around a very large camera and tripod for hours and hours through the halls of Gamescom. I was unbelievably exhausting. I must have walked at least 10 miles every single day with this stuff.
And that'll teach you to be too...
But it was fun though. I definitely appreciate it because it was obviously entertaining when I got to do stuff in the business center, go test games and things.
Yeah.
But it was also really cool being on the show floor and being in the excitement with the public.
Yeah.
And you got to film quite an amazing fight.
I did. So if anyone hasn't seen this yet, I was doing a cosplay roundup video, and I was filming this amazing Spider-Man. That was unintentional. He was an amazing Spider-Man. Really great cosplay, and he was kind of getting into it, doing all these moves. I was getting some great shots. Then out of nowhere, we hear this laugh, kind of panned off to the right.
Like,
It's just, so I kind of do this office-style zoom pan over to reveal the worst and simultaneously greatest goblin costume that you have ever seen in your entire life. And then they continue to have this unchoreographed, horrible, most socially awkward fight you've ever seen in your entire life. It's just the most cringe thing, and you can hear me sniggering, trying to hold it together as we film this. I'm doing all these crash zooms and like all these pans, trying to make it as dramatic as possible.
Yeah, so you can hear Rory laughing.
I can't keep it together. It's so funny. But check it out on site.
Yeah, we'll embed that in the
thing.
Yeah.
So he basically also then says the pork knuckle. I didn't have the pork knuckle because it scared me too much. I just view it as like a fist of ham. But he says his best experiences in terms of food have been in the authentic beer halls rather than the touristy restaurants on the waterfront. We went to the touristy restaurants on the waterfront because we finished so late. We were just like, screw it.
We were eating at like almost 10 at night.
We were getting there at 10, and then by the time we were ordering, it wasn't till like anyway.
But the pork knuckle, amazing, really good. Have you ever had it before? It's basically just like it looks like the villain from Indiana Jones has torn a heart out of someone's body and just laid it on a plate.
It's basically
in front of you.
a pig
incredible.
fist. So Rory has a fetish for fist. And then finally, can you recommend what UK-based gamer show to attend? EGX is the only one that I can really think of.
Yeah, that's coming up quite soon, right?
That's in September, and it's in, I think, 24th to 28th, and it's in Birmingham this year.
Exciting. Will we be sending anyone there or going there?
I'll be going, yeah.
Cool.
I don't know. I'll be going for a day, I think, but I don't know when.
How long does it run for?
4.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's pretty much our best one in the UK. So, yeah.
Cool. No pork knuckle,
there's
though,
also Game
unfortunately.
City in Nottingham, which is fun.
So if you come, you can meet Luke.
Yeah, look forward to that, buddies.
Number 3 is from Sam Belazga. Hi, guys. So I played my first ever indie game yesterday. Congratulations. That being Journey. Fantastic start.
Good choice.
Fantastic start. It absolutely blew my mind. I would love to know your thoughts on the best indie games around for PlayStation 4.
Jesus.
Now, Sam, we haven't really talked about it on the podcast a lot in the last couple of weeks, but if you've heard of a game called Rocket League before,
that is a little game.
It's a little independent game. It's probably my number one. At least right now.
There are so many choices. I mean, if you're looking for... the thing about Journey is Journey's quite a unique experience. So I would probably recommend... it's made by a company called That Game Company. And if you look at their other 2 games, which I think might even be in the free collection for PS Plus owners, but they're called Flower and Flow. And they're both quite unique. So that's a good place to start. It's I'd kind of ramp up slowly because a lot of these games are don't really give you a lot of hand holding. There's one that's called Don't Starve.
Except the hand holding simulator.
Except that one. There's one called Don't Starve, which is pretty good as well, which is kind of it's basically a survival thing. You have to gather things during the day to try and survive.
I heard that. I heard that game's pretty fun.
Yeah, but it's really nice. Like the hand-drawn art style, it's really good. There's a lot of ones. There's we've got loads on IGN, but I'd say that's probably.
Is Fez PS4?
Fez, I believe, is on PS4 as well, and there's loads.
Super Meat Boy.
Super Meat Boy. I think it was announced for PS4, but I don't know if it's out yet.
I'm just throwing names out.
Yeah,
I haven't played these games.
Super Meat
Call
Boy,
of Duty.
Don't confuse the man. Super Meat
Sam's
Boy.
a smart man. He knows what he's talking about.
Super Meat Boy is one of Dan's favorite games. So check
Sam,
that.
I would keep an eye out for Firewatch, which is an independent game that I am really looking forward to.
Friend of the show, Ollie Moss.
Exactly, did an incredible job with the artwork on that game.
Yeah.
So I keep an eye out for that. I believe that's being released for PC and PS4. So definitely keep an eye on that for the future.
Don't know if we have a date yet, but yeah.
I think you might have the next one.
I do.
By the way, you don't have to read out the numbers.
I don't have to. Oh,
No.
Okay.
It's just for us.
This is from Jack Milburn, and this is number 4. Hello, I'm Jack.
I like the opening of that. Hello, I'm Jack.
Typo. Hello, I'm Jack. On last week's podcast, you were talking about other podcasts you listen to, and I just thought I would write you in to say that I have a few that I've been listening to for a good few months. First off is Plumbing the Death Star, where they talk about how things work or don't work in movies.
Oh, that sounds good.
Sounds like a pretty interesting one.
Never heard of it.
Next is Movie Maintenance. This podcast is about movies/TV shows that leave us a little bit disappointed and what they would have done to make it better. Massive changes or just small tweaks.
Sounds
I'm
like a
sure
good
they're going to
idea.
be talking about True Detective.
Yeah.
It does
That's
sound
a
like
good idea. He also mentions the Distractions podcast with Scroobius Pip, which I've got mixed feelings on, but it certainly has some really good guests on it.
Yeah. Also, I was just wondering, what does IGN stand for? I've been using the site for about 2 years and I still don't know. Well, Jack, I believe it does stand for Imagine German Noodles, which is the original title.
It used to, wasn't it? Didn't it used to be the Imagine Games Network?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
we were owned by Imagine, and then it got sold, and now it's basically just devolved into
Yeah,
nothing.
we kind of said it was the Internet Games Network for a while.
It started as the Imagine Games Network, and then it just kind of. But now we do so much different stuff, right?
I got NADS.
I
I got nads. I like that.
Yeah, it really doesn't mean anything. It's just kind of the brand name now. So
Yeah.
it's super annoying because that question comes up a lot, and you always
So frustrating.
never really know how to answer it.
Yeah.
It's kind of my answer is nothing, but that's not what people want to hear.
This is the thing, because my mum's friends are always like, "Oh, what does that stand for?" And
It's
she's
a lot
just
like,
yeah.
It's like IT crowd when someone asks Jen, what does IT stand for? She's like, Internet Things.
Yeah. I love it.
Finally, I didn't know whether to read this out or not. It's an email from Peter Gorbert, who says, following on from Luke's request for fan fiction on the Duck Hunters Facebook group,
No.
my girlfriend and I thought we would give it a go. Here is chapter 1. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to try and make it a regular blog. It's called Luke and Rory, and this chapter 1 is called The Journey.
I've read this. I've read this.
We've both read this.
I'm not going to read the whole thing, though. I'll just read some of my favourite bits. It's about the two of you getting a plane together.
Yeah.
This was worrying, though, because we read
read
this the night after we had got a plane together, and there's a lot of disturbingly similar details.
In the crush of the crowd thronging its way towards the departure gate, Rory caught sight of the cheeky glint in Luke's eye.
Oh my God! Don't do this to me.
An unfamiliar sense stirred in Rory's stomach.
jeez.
Was this jealousy he was feeling? A bit later on, Luke's hand lightly brushed Rory's peanuts as he adjusted his tray table.
It's on a plane, guys. There's actual peanuts.
Yeah.
And finally, Rory was asleep in minutes, his head resting gently on Luke's shoulder. Luke smiled knowingly. Now, I appreciate this, Pete and Catherine, and you say you're going to make it a regular blog. I don't know if you need to do that. But, I mean, you can do whatever you want. It made me feel a bit sick in my mouth.
I
and
thought
in
it
my
was
balls.
fantastic, but then I realised it was about me and Rory. That sounds like a good thing.
No, thanks for your efforts. It's very well written
that was awesome.
as well.
That's the most worrying part, is that it's incredibly well written.
The terrifying thing is, I was like, this is like good stuff that I would pay to read if it if it didn't also scare me a little
Unsettling.
bit. Yeah, and it was worryingly true to life at the time that we read it.
What's the email address for people to write in with more fan fiction?
IGN oh wait, no, that one?
Yes.
Oh yes, IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Good
Excellent.
lad.
Finally, let's go to Out This Week. It looks like there's Sweet FA happening in games.
Pretty much. So catch up on what you've been missing.
There's quite a lot of movies coming out, though. Trainwreck's out, the Amy Schumer movie.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. The footage I saw from it, I didn't love about a year ago now.
Oh, wow.
But I love her sketch show and I love her stand-up. So
I'm a big fan of hers. So
Pixels is out, which I didn't think was as bad as everyone else seems to think. There are some funny moments in it. It's the Adam Sandler video game movie, obviously. Check out the Josh Gad interview there. We put up the full 40 minutes of it. He's a really cool guy, and even if you don't like the film, I think it's an interesting interview.
You like his Mama Fratelli?
His Mama Fratelli impression's good. But we talk about, there's so much to talk about, like Frozen 2, Angry Birds movie he's doing, Beauty and the
busy
Beast
guy.
live action,
Very busy.
Book of Mormon, possibility of that being a movie. So yeah, lots of good stuff there. Man from U.N.C.L.'s out, which I've reviewed. You can read that on the site. It's okay. I'm a big Guy Ritchie fan. I didn't think it was quite up to his usual standard. There's just no chemistry between those two lead guys. Henry Cavill is too darn wooden. And absolutely anything. That's Simon Pegg, Robin Williams, and the Monty Python guys.
Oh, wow.
Which should be a recipe for absolutely brilliance, and it's not. It's just a bit of a pain.
Not a good week for movies, is it?
No, a lot of groaning in my screening. The script isn't good enough. The Pythons are okay, but they're just kind of in voiceover. Robin Williams is the voice of a dog. It's one of his very final performances, and it's not. You're just sitting there thinking, I wish I was watching him doing the Aladdin thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's okay. If it's on tea time one Sunday, it might be mildly kind of amusing. But yeah, so this week I would recommend watching Trainwreck and the Superhero Show, all about the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Cool. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening and watching. And Rory, why don't you do the outro this week?
Was that not the outro? I thought that was the outro. Thank you for listening to the IGN UK podcast. Tune in next week when we will be back with even more exciting video game, television, and TV news. Thank you and goodbye. Was that all right?
Well, you said television and TV, but yeah, that'll do.
Oh, damn it. Video games, film news.
Bye, guys.
Right, bye-bye. Duck Hunt.
Cheerio.
Bye.